called Allura. It's really good.
I love a good candle.
It's from West Elm. They have this like whole new like candle smelly stuff line. So you guys go to West Elm, check out their candle section, and they also have like the scent diffusers. I like the one that smells like Allura. Really
Can I
cute.
just say too that the person that comes to mind anytime someone says West Elm is West Elm Caleb, which was this dude that was what's it called, like love bombing women in New York, and so they all kind of got together on TikTok and like identified. They were like West Elm Caleb because he worked at West Elm.
They exposed us.
Okay, sorry.
We are live on YouTube. We're starting.
Yes, ma'am.
3, 2.
Hi, Crystal. Hi, everybody. Hello and welcome. You are listening to the Whistle Down, Wind Down with Crystal and Mara, a podcast dedicated to our favorite Netflix series, Bridgerton, from Shondaland Media. You can find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Crystal, what's new with you, girl? It's been a minute. What's up?
I know. So happily, I am visiting my sister and my nephew. My nephew just finished kindergarten. It's so exciting because you don't realize like they're little, but then you're like, you haven't been here that long. So it's just exciting to like just be like in the presence and just get to hang out for a bit. Because I haven't seen them in a while. So it was nice. I'm really happy to be here. So yeah, what's happening? What's up with you?
Nice. Well, my puppy, well, I can't call her puppy anymore, but my pup, Poppy, she turned 3 years old a couple days ago. So I'm still like going through and reminiscing through the little photos of when I first got her. She's a pandemic puppy, so I still get it now. Sometimes you just kind of look at them and you're like, oh, my puppy is still a puppy, even if she's like 3 years old. But so that's what's new with me.
Nice. All right. Well, it's that time, y'all. all these stories are emotional. I'm just like, we gotta talk about it. Let's get into this. All right. Let's first talk about who we are. So who am I? Me. My name's Crystal. I'm a wannabe librarian, and I love to get lost in a story. I'm also a Shonda stan who constantly asked, "Does this make me a bad feminist?" I love a good romance novel, and thought Regency era fictions were my own guilty pleasure. I now know better.
And I'm Mara, a lover of British period dramas and a huge Jane Austen fan. If I could put myself anywhere, it would be in the writer's room at Shondaland to watch the magic happen. I didn't know there were others like me that enjoyed reading historical romance novels. I feel like I have found my people.
Yes. And today, y'all understand in a moment why it's an emotional time. We're talking about Queen Charlotte, a Bridgerton story, episode 3, Even Days. Not odd, y'all. Even Days. And I'm just excited to get into it.
All right, Crystal. It's clearly Crystal. This is going to be a good episode because Crystal is in her feelings today. So go ahead and grab a glass of wine, tea, any other favorite drink that you have, and let's get into it. Cheers.
Cheers. All right, y'all. It's time. Well, let's start. Let's back up, girl. I'm ready to jump. Okay, we're gonna start with a quick bread because y'all know quick bread's my dessert of choice. It's supposed to be a breakfast dish, but we're not gonna talk about it. So Mara, let's get into this recap.
All right, Crystal. Are you ready for this quick bread?
Always.
Well, Crystal, happy Coronation Day to you and our listeners. Violet Ledger, aka Young Mama Bridgerton, served up her mama with the quickness. Our king and queen are spicy in the bedroom, in the bathtub, and the dining room. Ooh, let me clutch my pearls. Queen Charlotte, your walls are too high, sis. Lady Danbury is playing chess out here, y'all, while the rest of us are playing checkers. We learned how Lady Danbury was bestowed the first, hosting the first ball of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Queen Charlotte understands you live for the happiness and the misery of a great nation during this episode.
Oof.
Our king and queen attend Lady Danbury's ball as they take one step forward, but as we all know, we're going to be seeing them go 2 steps back.
Mm. Hmm. All right, so we're gonna go right into past the scones here, but y'all know I love these recaps, and you understand it now. You understand, you feel it. Okay, so we're gonna pass the scones, and I'm gonna pass the first scone over to Mara just to say, you are a person to me. You can be a person with me. That is what Charlotte says to George when she finally understands like what he's dealing with. And I was just like, let me find out that the person that has the real lines, because we all know that Shonda and her team like to give us unrealistic expectations in love, but the real person giving the lines, the love lines, is Charlotte. Charlotte has the lines. This is consistent. Last week it was the same thing. It's the same thing this week. You are a person to me. You can be a person with me. Love it. That was just, I thought it was beautiful and just like perfect, just like perfectly poised. It's just the way that she is honest and open and she's vulnerable. She's always like real clear on what she says. And I thought that was like amazing. So that's my first scone. What about you?
I love that. I just wanted to piggyback off of that just real quick before I share mine, because in my notes, kind of just viewing Queen Charlotte's point of view of when she overheard the conversation between King George and his mother, I felt offensive too. I felt that he was basically saying the only reason why he's bedding her is because it's his duty, and that based in how Queen Charlotte took it is, as a viewer, how we all thought it's okay. So then you really aren't feeling her the way that we thought we were getting those signs, like, because Queen Charlotte knows that this is a transactional position that she's in right now, but she has sensed that there is a genuine connection, a genuine feel between the two of them. And of course, this is actually following the first time that she like lost her virginity to King George, and she did it willingly and for all intensive purposes, lovingly, that she opened herself up, that she showed her vulnerability. And now, she hears this impassioned speech by King George talking to his mother. And I too felt some type of way. But like you said, in this episode, she learns what exactly what I had said earlier. She learns that you do live for the happiness and the misery of a great nation, and understanding how much pressure he is under, and that he is two people. He is King George to society, but just George when it's just the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just piggyback off of that one. A couple quick breads. Violet Ledger, aka Young Mama Bridgerton. Her mama, I wish I could cuss, but that hussy right there, oh hell no. I can't with her. Another quick bread is I love this line between and again, you're right. Queen Charlotte is really nailing these lines. When she tells King George, I hate the way you breathe. Why do I feel like married couples, people that have been in long-term relationships, people that have been even in short-term relationships that are kind of like going through it right now, that scene probably depicted 90% of relationships. Like sometimes it gets to a point where I hate the way you breathe. He told this man, I can't stand the hair. I can't stand that you're breathing the same air as me. I said, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And another quick one, Lady Danbury in purple. In purple, you see my looks flawless.
This is I'm trying to figure out which scene. Is this at the church?
This is not at the church. This is the episode where Lady Danbury arrives unannounced to see Queen Charlotte
Ooh, with the cuffs, with the flurry, the fluff on. Okay, yes.
I said, I was like, well, why does Lady Danbury look more like royalty than Queen Charlotte? But that's okay. That's between me and you. That's between me and you.
Ooh. No, I really like that. The other thing that I really enjoyed was character-wise, Ledger, Mama Bridgerton's dad. I thought it was like he came on screen and it's just like, all right, this guy, and we've seen him once before, but just seeing the way that he interacted with Violet, and I was like, I like this guy. My sister said the same thing, and I was just like, I said the same thing when I saw it the first time. Like he just like you saw him, and immediately I was just like, oh, I like him. And then you're just like, dang, that's your mama, like Violet, that's your mom, because she's something. That's your mama. But at the same time, I was just like, the two of them are very juxtaposed. But I really like immediately, like in the scene, it's just like, I like this guy. And I enjoyed him throughout the rest of the episode. And just brief in and out, brief hey. But it was just interesting to kind of see that kind of like present itself so quickly. I'm like, how did they do that? Because even I was just like, huh. And even with the hair, with the wisp of the, the hair atop the hair look. Even with it, I was just like, no, I still like this guy. I still like this guy. So that was another piece. And then fast forwarding to purples, like sticking with the purple attire. When Agatha comes outside, I love how we call her Agatha now because she's young. But when Agatha comes,
our girl, come on now, we can call her by the first name. Go ahead, Aggie.
So when she comes, Aggie. So when she comes out after her husband's untimely end.
Ooh, that was one of my favorites. I feel bad. R.I.P. Lord Danbury.
Yes, and when her and Coral were so clear on the plan, like listen, this is a public service announcement to get your wills in place, and get your trust and everything, holding companies, all that figured out. Please do that now. But let me tell you, in place, she had figured out. They had the plan ready. So it wasn't just the shock of his passing in the way that it was, because Lord, okay. But it's the fact that she came out and she was like, Coral. She was like, Coral. And Coral's like, what? No. Like, what? And then the two of them are just like, they're trying to be, and they're thankfully, she has her team. Like, it says a lot about who your staff is. And then they went into performance mode. Didn't miss a mark, didn't miss a beat. She was like, you call the doctor, you get his valet. And I was like, look, they have been practicing this for years. And I just loved, like, the plan was set and then executed brilliantly. And I just loved like that end too, at least to that part of the storyline before we got to Mr. George. But yeah, those are my scones, girl.
Coral and Agatha definitely had a protocol. So it was almost as if what do you call it? What was that Jamie Foxx movie? And he played the president, something about the White House or something like that. Like they had a whole protocol for if and when something happened to the president. But it was like a Bridgerton, it was like a Bridgerton style, like lightweight action movie. Like they had a whole thing. You know which one I'm talking about?
I'm trying to remember. It wasn't White House Down. Was it him? I'm so mad right now because I'm thinking it's Morgan Freeman. And I'm just like, am I just picking the black man? What?
No, it was I forget what it was.
Was he playing the president?
I think he was playing the president.
I think it had something to, anyway, I can't recall it in this moment. If somebody remembers, can y'all tell us? Like, let us know. Just drop it in the comments. But I can't remember. Yeah. Was it White House Down? Oh, snap. Look at me. I remember something. Good. Listen, I'm gonna tell my cousin when I get off the phone to be like, girl, I got a movie trivia question correct today.
You're good.
Yeah. All right. You ready to get into up to snuff? Because I feel like we have some things to talk about.
Wait. Just one more.
Sorry.
So it is after the coronation, what do you call it? Queen Charlotte tells Brimsley to like clear the palace. She doesn't want to see anybody. King George doesn't want to see anybody. But then they get to that T point where Queen Charlotte goes to the right and King George goes to the left.
Mhm.
No one's talking to each other except Brimsley and Reynolds doing this.
Mhm.
But why is it each one specifically knows like which what do you call it? Which right-hand man is making the noise so that the other can speak. And so the other two are like having the conversation without having the conversation. I mean, I loved it. I love that.
That is so true.
So
Because one went and then the other went,
and
and they were addressing each one like, miss, sir.
yep. That's why I keep saying, if it wasn't for Reynolds and Brimsley, I really don't know if this thing would have went down the way it did with Charlotte and George, because them two, and then on top of that, can we just talk about on how they have passionate, like upset with you sex? Like,
This is very angry intimacy is what I kept calling it. Just it's like I hate you, but I want you. Like it was a very
I think about you all the time, but I want to make sure that you don't know that I'm thinking about you all the time. And I'm like, wait, y'all confusing.
It was very confusing. Can y'all what are y'all doing?
Because I was like, that don't look like that. Y'all don't look angry with each other at all. In fact, King George looked like he just want all of you, girl, in seconds too. I'm like, ooh, Lord.
Yes, I think everybody was surprised, including the staff at dinner.
Oh my goodness. So if you were the staff, Crystal, what would you have done? Like, would you have just like stood there and just be like, okay, that's what they're doing? Or like, would you just be like, you know what? I'm just going to exit to the side back door.
Hold on. Let me bring that. We're going to slide that question up to snuff. So
okay. Gotcha.
As we head in there, I would like to just, toast to you, girl. This has been a fun ride. So cheers as we get into this next section. All right. So the question is, and this is for everyone, what would you have done as staff in this moment when your employers obviously need some time to themselves and your job is to wait until they're done with dinner?
Like the way you pose that question.
I know for me though, I know for a fact I would be like, okay, what's the protocol? So I would probably not leave unless I'm told I can leave, but I'd be looking to either Brimsley or Reynolds to be like, what do we do right now? Because this is awkward. This was supposed to happen a couple of weeks ago. Why is this happening now? You know what I mean? So
I mean, they're outside the honeymoon phase. So it's like, oh, this is
it shifted. So yes, I definitely would have been looking at Reynolds and Brimsley like, do we, avert your eyes, but and then also at the same time, you still got to be attentive in case they need something. Like what?
What, you need a hand? Why?
Like they dropped the spoons. Do I pick it up? I don't know.
Charlotte was throwing all the dishes on. I would have been upset. I said, girl, that is good food that you are throwing.
I would love to know who felt some type of way when they saw the stuff go off the table. Cause I'm like, people had to prepare the table. So I'm thinking about like, you just threw the plate and the dishes on the floor. Right. And so I would love to know who was bothered by that. If there was an age association to that bothersomeness, or if it was just like, you just like things being in order and you're just like, why would you do that? Y'all got whole bedrooms. What y'all doing? You got a breakfast nook. You got a place that you can go just to meet people. Y'all had to do this here.
A day room, a sitting room, a music room, an art room. I'm like, y'all couldn't make it out the dining room though.
They weren't supposed to. But yeah, so that was actually, that's a good one. I don't know. I would love to know what other people would have thought. But they would have just been like, I'm done with y'all. Like, I mean, would they just be like, this is good. This is good. I don't, because it's an upgrade, I think, from where we were a couple weeks back. So technically, I don't know. All right. So dang. So What else you got? Because I have a couple, but these are kind of heavy. I feel like a lot of this is heavy stuff. Yeah, did you have any questions? Are there any questions for up to snuff?
Oh, no questions for, well, yes, of course. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and pitch out this softball.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and get it started. We'll go light. We'll go real light.
Okay.
When we see Queen Charlotte standing in front of the mirror, and it appears that we see her touching the side of her stomach to give the viewers an idea or the impression that she could be with child. What do you think she's thinking of during that moment when she's looking in the mirror?
This is supposed to be a softball, Mara.
It's all softball.
So the way I saw it was kind of like contemplative of just like, could I be expecting? And at the same time, because this is all, I'm doing all of this because this is my role, right? This is what I have to do. So I thought of it as kind of like, it's both, not necessarily that she thinks that she is, but just kind of like thinks that like she could be. But I think it might have just been like all of the different pieces of, can I be, I guess, like, what does this mean? I think would probably been the question. If I'm pregnant, then great. Or is it not great? Because at the same time that it means that I don't have to do this anymore, it's also like, do I not want to still do this anymore? Even though he gets on my nerves, right? And I don't want to hear, I don't like the way you breathe, right? Even though that's true.
Don't talk about, I was like, why she got mad? He was breathing the same air as her. I said, girl, stop.
See, so I think it would have been in that, because we see in the story, as she talks about the story, she's telling Lady Danbury how much she hates this man. And at the same time, she's recapping in her mind the intimacy and the passion of their relationship. And she's kind of just like, so there's still that piece of just like, she doesn't want him, but she also still wants him. So it's kind of like, what happens now if she does get pregnant with his child? Right? Everybody's happy, but then where does she fall in that? So I feel like I still think it's all confusion and just like concern. Yeah, I don't think she was just kind of like, yeah, like finally, like, I think it was more so like, yeah, I'd say concern. What do you think?
Great points, all valid points. I'm going to take another perspective on this. But I think you brought up a great point in terms of, one, was she keeping it a secret, or did she really know but wasn't for sure? And that's the reason why she was keeping it. Because the very next scene is they actually make up. She actually explains, that she understands now. She's more insight. And I wonder if, because now she may be thinking that she's with child now, and then also having the conversation with Lady Danbury when Danbury is explaining to her, like, you are our queen. We are your constituents. And she's telling her, like, let's just be real, like, you're our queen, like, you are the other side of this, like, you represent us. You may not have walked into this role and that was part of the job title, but you have inherited this job title. So therefore you are representing us. So when Lady Danbury, reiterates, like, yes, it's important for you to consummate the marriage so that you are queen, so that you are solidified. It's important that you do become pregnant to heir, to continue to solidify your role within this country. Because this is an opportunity that has never been given to anyone that looked like them within this,
within this space. Yeah, within the
multiverse, within the Bridgerton multiverse. And with those two thoughts now going on in her head, that those two that played a part into her stopping for a moment and thinking. some of the notes I wrote down is thinking about the queen that she, thinking about the queendom, I guess, or being married into this role, becoming queen,
Mm-hmm.
but also what type of queen does she want to be?
Mm-hmm.
What will her legacy look like moving forward? Because now she is carrying the air. What type of world does she hope to create with this new child coming into the world? Because again, this is the first of its kind. This is now a mixed race, biracial child, and on top of that, it's the prince or the princess within this monarchy. And
Archie.
say it again.
I said Archie.
Oh Lord.
Sorry, I can't not think about modern day. I think that's the greatest thing about this story, is that it's meant to be a retelling, recreation, or just its own like fantasy of an old time that's modernized, right? But it also still very much speaks to the current day. And I cannot not see, right? Like I can't separate
The little parallel.
the parallels of what they're going through at this point in the story and what we just experienced as a global community. Because let's be honest, we were all dealing with the pandemic. We're all inside. We had nothing to do, which meant all we could do was watch Bridgerton, which I'm not mad about. I'm actually really grateful that it came out during that time. But we had nothing. What are we doing? We're working from home. Like we didn't have a lot to go out and do. So then we have these stories that now become the story that we get to follow, because at that time, even with the pandemic, the world press was still chasing these people down. We're trying to get, more storylines and things. And it hits different, particularly for a Black woman in America, to hear what's happening overseas. And so I can't not hear that in the storyline, where we're concerned about coloring. We're concerned about like who she represents and what it means. And then from a time where it was very different then, where they had just become modern by allowing a couple to have privacy while they're consummating their marriage.
Okay, I like the distinction. Privacy, got it.
Where like now in the 2000s, this is what 2021 essentially, that now we're still asking these same questions, and the opportunity to make a shift is not what occurred, right? So it's one of those things that I can't, like, that's one of the reasons why I can't unsee it. And I will always like think, like, as I'm watching, going like, look at look at what happens and look at what doesn't happen. And then what opportunities did we miss in this scenario? And so it's the same thing. So I can't say, yeah. So unfortunately, my first thought was like, they go Archie. I'm sorry to say it. I'm not sorry. Let me stop. I'm not sorry to say it. But yeah, but it's sorry, not sorry. Correct. It's just, yeah. So it's just one of those things that when it's just something I think about. It's just like it makes a difference. It changes your perception of things, but then it's also just like, wow, like it's not new. None of this is new. So in many ways, it was never a surprise, right? What was happening, it was just kind of just like, wow, y'all really gonna let this keep happening? Y'all gonna really let this be on all the news channels? This looks crazy. Tyler Perry and Oprah had to say, like, stop it. Like, this is too much. But wait, okay, let me bring it back, because I know I'm gonna go off left.
Nope.
We talked about the conversation that she had with Lady Danbury. And so I'm listening to her tell the story. I'm listening to like her kind of point out the different things that she said, like the things that you need to do for us. You need to, I've been telling you to consummate, to become with child. I've been telling you to endure. And all of these things that she's saying, like, you hold our fates in your hand. And all I could think about was just like, well, dang. I'm like, the question that came up, I had a couple, but one of them was, is it fair? Is it fair to put all of that on her, put all of this pressure on her when it wasn't necessarily something that she asked for? This is not something that like it was planned for her. It was something that men made an agreement, men made a decision, and therefore she ended up in this position. And therefore she's not equipped for this like I take that back, because I think she's fully equipped. But I think just like
she does have the tools. But
yeah,
but does she know how to use them?
Yeah, I don't think she was there yet, but it just, so, but the question still remains. I'm like this whole thing of like, it's the same thing as like the black tax. When we talk about celebrities who go off to play professional sports, they start getting huge checks and people are like, oh, like, well, why are they going to bankruptcy and all these other things? And it's like, did they have the tools to understand how to manage their finances? Who were they taking care of outside of themselves, right? Because those people that they had to take care of at home didn't have. And so now they're the ones that have, so they have this responsibility. Is it fair? You know what I mean? And so I think that was the question that I had. And I'm interested to know if like what you thought about like the pressure that Lady Danbury shows up with and says like, she comes and she lays it at our feet.
Absolutely. Is it fair? No, absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
This woman is stepping into a situation that she's not familiar to, that she has limited power over, limited decision making over.
Mm-hmm.
And so she is to go out and to take care of her country, to take care of her family. She agrees to this, but beholdenly agrees to it. But
Mm-hmm.
she understands the dynamics. When thinking about what you just shared, and I know it sounds crazy, but and it's not crazy, but I'm a big sports fan, and I watch this sports program on TNT. One of the athletes there, his name is Charles Barkley.
Oh, hey,
And
yeah, girl, come on. I'm
okay,
originally from New York. It's Charles. Go ahead.
I've been watching Charles play in basketball, one of my favorite defensive players growing up in the mid 90s. But one of the things that I believe that he had mentioned one time, I think either talking to a young player or just sharing it in conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something I believe someone had told to him, stating that, no, you don't, he did not want to be a mentor or someone to look up to as an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
However, though, he understood that once he stepped into this role as a NBA athlete, he was going to be looked upon in that light.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of Queen Charlotte, that she may not have asked for this.
Mm-hmm.
For all intents and purposes, she didn't, but she knows the role that she plays and she knows what is to be expected. But she may not have asked for it, but by her stepping into it, she is going to learn that she will be looked at from her community as this light.
Mm-hmm.
But
It was tough. It was tough. The scene was tough for me because of the responsibility of it. Right. And it's the weight of the responsibility that you don't necessarily, in her case, she didn't know she had. And so she wasn't factoring it in. And I'm sure, you know, like we said, it factored into her, the conversation she was having with George, where she's just like, oh, snap. These people are asking me for stuff. And I have a responsibility to people. She's like, I don't know anybody cared. She also, this is also, I think there were a couple other things. The other thing that happened was her understanding that she had fired people when she decided that she wanted to pick her own oranges. She didn't know that happened. And then she also didn't know, but that by her saying, I don't want to talk about it, that meant the end of the conversation. There's no discussion involved. And therefore I have to comply with what you said. So it was that kind of recognition of like what impact you can have, but also not realizing it until someone has to like point it out to you. And so yeah, so it's just that notion of just like responsibility. And I know how like for me, whenever I hear the word responsibility, I'm just like, like it's like it's another thing that you got to go do. Or like it's another thing that I've always felt that I was tapped with, not necessarily that something that I wanted. And
Right.
so it was always frustrating when someone's just like, oh, you're the responsible one. So let me, give this to you or put this on you. Or like people turn to you and you're just like, I don't want to lead this. Like, I don't want to be in charge of this. But there's this expectation that people are kind of giving to you that you don't, at least in my case, I was just like, there were times that I just didn't want it. And so that's what I felt. And that's what I got from that scene. And that's why it triggered me in a way that I'm just like, well, come on. Like, it's not fair. But also I hear your point, and I fully understand kind of like you may not want it, but you understand the importance of it and like why it has to happen. So this is let me tell you, this was a good episode. This is a good episode. Dang, okay. I know what else? I still have like 3 that okay. What what else do you have? Because I know we're gonna have to cut some of these and send these to the lounge. And so what else did you?
Well, do you have an urgent one that you just feel like, you know what, I just need to get this out real quick? Because I feel like sometimes with you and I, we probably have the same thing written down. So one of us is going to mention it.
So I think that dang, I gotta try to pick between these. Yes. Okay. Here's one that I think is interesting that I kind of wanted to flag and just see what other people thought and see what your thoughts on this too, was doing things differently. So this is gonna, like, I'm fast forwarding now to the ball that Lady Danbury expertly figured out how to do. Augusta showed up like, and I'm just like, you here though.
That was strategy. She did strategy.
Yes. All right. So doing things differently though was like when they go into the ballroom and the music is playing and both sides, right? So they have the white ton essentially, which let me correct that, because at this time this would have been the English, right? The white Englishmen, and then we have the people of color. Look at me like I'm trying to like I'm scanning through the people of color, like who's missing? I'm like, yeah, because there was both Black and Asian people on this side. And so when they're
something real quick, Crystal, let me just add something real quick, and maybe this might also help also. So within the book, they really describe the two sides as old money and new money. So folks that had titles, which were the white, and folks that had just received the titles. So kind of old money, new money type thing. But go ahead.
Understood. When we say old money, we just mean new English money. Okay. So, so the when they go to the ball, I love the way that they showed you the scene of them dancing. The two sides are dancing to the same music in different ways. And what immediately made me think of African American vernacular, and it made me think of Black ASL, so Black American Sign Language, and how I learned that thanks to social media. And I would say TikTok, but it's really people from TikTok that put that sucker on Instagram. I'm trying to reclaim my time. That's why I refuse to download TikTok, because I know I'm gonna get lost. So the thing, so it's interesting to like find out that like, hey, there's a different way that we do things. Because I think even in like what's happening on the dance floor, there was more of I don't know if I need to watch it again to see if that's actually true, but I'm like, is there more expression on this side versus the other side, like in just the dance that they were doing? Because I feel like I remember there being like a kick jump at some point, and I was just like, oh, excuse me. And then I was like, oh, are we dancing to the same music? I'm like, the dances are even different. And it just made me think of what other differences are there where we exist in the same space, but we just do things differently. And see if anybody noticed, like, did you notice anything else that you're like, oh, we do this? Or like, you can tell in the show, the way that they've portrayed it, that there's just a way that people were either moving or shifting or just anything else that like stood out really.
Well, first and foremost, I'll be honest with you, I did not even think about that in terms of when that scene that you're describing at the ball. I wasn't paying that hard. I was not paying that much attention to the dancing, because I just assumed that they were just dancers and like they were all doing the same movement, but you're saying that they were doing different dances to the
Mhm.
music?
Yeah, if you rewatch the scene, you'll see that on the left side, you'll see that there. So this is the biggest, I guess, marker is like the white-haired, coiffed, pieces are on the left, and then the black-haired pieces are on the right. And their dances, there are more, they're just two different dances that are happening on the same dance floor. There's a line down the middle. It's not a it's not a physical line, but it's visible. And they're performing to the same quartet that's playing. They're all in the same room, and they're at two different events. And so it's just interesting because I'm like, oh, I wonder if it's because they learn dances differently. And so when this waltz plays or this music plays, do they just choose like, oh, we're going to do a waltz, and oh, we're going to do a jive, or I don't know what the terms, but like what is it going to be? And so it was interesting to be like, are they just deciding that like, these are the dances we're going to do today? Like, how did we get to the point where the music started and y'all got on the dance floor and started doing completely different things? You're in sync with each other, but not as a whole.
But definitely not as a whole. And it speaks to producer, I want more time with this topic. It makes me, well, first of all, the first thing that came to mind, and I'll be honest, and I know this sounds horrible, but people of color use seasoning with their food.
Okay. I heard it. I heard you. I heard it.
Is that cool to say? Is that too much or just enough? Just enough?
Are we talking about facts or feelings? But continue.
No. And that's the first thought that came to mind. I was like, well, that makes sense because there's just probably more seasoning going on over there. But in terms of seeing, and again, I'll use the example that they were using in the book. You have old money and new money.
Mm-hmm.
What happens with old money? Old money does not like a change because you're changing their infrastructure. You're making them you're making them open their eyes to different avenues when in their minds, well, this is how it's always been, and this is how everyone else should assimilate. And then you have new money saying, no, we have worked just as hard. We have done the same amount of, we've not only worked just as hard, but we have done twice as much as work to get to where we are. So we have earned everything in front of us. And so I think it's also that different mindset between the two, the old versus the new. So that's kind of just to kind of, just kind of add to that point that you were making, because I really have to go back and look at that scene because, and I'll be honest with you, when we get to that scene, Alicia Keys, If I Ain't Got You, is like part of that scene, that montage. And I just get lost in the music. And Chris Bowers, shout out to that man. That man has an ear. I just have not heard the music arrangements in that way. And it's so beautiful. It's its own character. And now seeing the whole series, seeing all 6 episodes, that song represents King George and Queen Charlotte so much more. And talk about that in episode 6. But that song right there, pay attention to every word in that song because it fits them perfectly as a couple. So I got lost up in that part. But yeah, you're definitely having me go back and check out the episode.
You gotta watch it one more again. Dang, y'all.
I know, because
we have to wrap up. We gotta shut this down.
You know what? We have to dissect the relationship between Lady Danbury and Lord Danbury. We didn't even get a chance to dive deep into that relationship because that relationship was also transactional. Lady Danbury also, she had a love for him. She was not in love with him. Within the book and within the show, there are these tender moments between the two of them. even when Lord Danbury, using his manipulative powers, to have his wife ask the Dowager Princess if they can host the first ball of the season. At first, Lady Danbury's like, no, she's not going to let us do that, blah, blah, blah. He does his little Jedi mind trick. But like I said, you get more context within the book about she may not have loved him. She may just she had love for him, and she understood his struggle.
Dang,
There's
there's so much more.
It's
Okay.
just so much going on with that one. Like, a lot of teasers going on. What else did I have?
But here's what we can do. So here's some. I'll name a couple things that we'll take into the chat, so you guys can join us there. The Whistle Down Wind Down Lounge on Facebook. But I'll tell you. So I'll name at least two that I can tell you right now. Is just like remembering your fortune. You don't know what you're going through. My sister was the one. She was just like, you really don't know what you're going through. And the truth is, we don't know what's happening with folks. So remembering your fortune was one thing I wanted to get into. And we didn't get to get into George's mental break at the end, and like what that means to step into someone's, I don't want to use the wrong term, but pretty much stepping into someone's, I can't think of the word. But the fact that Charlotte, say again?
Are you talking about like stepping into someone's space, stepping into someone's?
No, like kind of like the psychosis. So like where he was mentally, like the fact that Charlotte stepped into it, right? As opposed to stepping on the outside. So we want to kind of get into that mental break, but also like what is happening for Charlotte in that moment. So we're going to bring all this stuff into the lounge. What else did you want to add, or what we'll take over there?
I haven't had enough of Violet's mother. I want to take her to task so much. She's up there talking about an unnatural society, talking about Coronation Day is a farce. Did you know I looked that up in the dictionary to double check the definition? A comic dramatic work using buffoonery and horseplay, and typically including crude characterization and ludicrously improbable situation.
That's even harsher than I thought it was. Ooh,
I was hot. And that's what she gets for having a progressive husband.
Oh,
there you go, with her little ass. I couldn't stand it. And then also the church scene. So we can take this over into the lounge. The church scene on how Lady Danbury. Well, this kind of adds to the relationship between Lord and Lady Danbury, when Lady Danbury tells Violet that she was fortunate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's Violet and Lady D. Right.
To have a love like that. Yeah. But the mental health breakdown of King George, that one was wow.
We need to give time to talk about this one. All right. So yeah, we gotta get out of here. We've enjoyed spending time talking about it. This really, honestly, and this is only episode 3. It's so much here. All right. So again, shut it down. We're gonna let everybody get some rest. We're gonna be back for episode 4. So thank you again. That's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts, please leave a review. We're looking for some feedback. And if you want to keep the conversation going, again, come join us for the rest of these conversation topics. You can find us in the Whistle Down Wind Down Lounge on Facebook. And we'll see you soon for episode 4, Holding the King. Have a good night, good day, good afternoon. We'll see you guys. Bye.